The summer of 1964 was a busy time here at Philmont Scout Ranch. From June 3rd through 6th, NASA brought 20 of Apollo's astronauts to Philmont to study geology in and around the buffalo pasture. Buzz Aldrin, Jim Lovell, Neil Armstrong, and Roger Chaffee were among those present who in just a few short years would lead America in the race to the moon. Following on the heels of this historic event came a much more public-facing opportunity when Don Meyer Productions used Philmont Scout Ranch as the backdrop for Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom Season 3, Episode 4, called The Philmont Trail. Marlin Perkins, Jim Fowler, and an Air Explorer squadron from Los Alamos came to Philmont for a week of film production. We'll learn more about the Wild Kingdom, the Philmont Trail, including the recent discovery of a short scrapbook documenting Air Explorer Squadron 99's participation in the production in this edition of Artifact of the Week. Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom is a documentary television program featuring wildlife and nature. The original show ran from 1963 to 1988. The hosts were Marlin Perkins and Jim Fowler, and the show was produced by Don Meyer, who also directed many of the episodes. Marlin Perkins was born Richard Marlin Perkins on March 28, 1905 in Carthage, Missouri. He was the youngest of 3 sons. Perkins' mother nursed him through a serious bout of pneumonia when he was 7 years old. Unfortunately, the illness claimed his mother's life in the process. Following her death, his father sent his older brothers to a private boarding school, and he was sent to live on his Aunt Laura's farm in Pittsburgh, Kansas. In the fall of 1919, Perkins started attending Wentworth Military Academy, a high school and junior college in Lexington, Missouri. It was at Wentworth where Perkins developed a fascination with snakes. Following his time at Wentworth, Perkins briefly attended the University of Missouri before becoming a laborer at the St. Louis Zoological Park. In 1928, Perkins became the zoo's reptile curator. In 1938, Perkins was named director of the Buffalo Zoological Park, and in 1944, he was named director of the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago, where he became part of Sir Edmund Hillary's 1960 Himalayan expedition to search for the legendary Yeti. From 1952 to 1957, Perkins hosted a local television show called Zoo Parade, which originated from the zoo and aired on Sunday afternoons on NBC stations. In 1962, Perkins returned to the St. Louis Zoo as its director. Now that Perkins was back at the St. Louis Zoo, he started talking to V.J. Scott, the chairman and CEO of the insurance company Mutual of Omaha, about a new television show focused on wildlife and the outdoors. Mutual of Omaha had previously sponsored Zoo Parade, Perkins' previous TV hosting experience. Also involved in these discussions was Don Meyer, the creator of Zoo Parade. Mutual of Omaha agreed to sponsor the program known as Wild Kingdom and lend its name to the title of the program. Don Meyer's production company would produce the show beginning in 1963. Joining Perkins as co-host was Jim Fowler. Fowler was born on April 9, 1930 in Albany, Georgia, and grew up in Falls Church, Virginia. As a youth, he attended Westtown School, a Quaker college preparatory school. He graduated from Earlham College in 1952 with degrees in zoology and ornithology. Following college, Fowler worked in Florida at a raptor sanctuary and in Africa as an animal trainer for a film production. Fowler began graduate work, taking on a research project in Brazil to study the harpy eagle, the world's largest eagle along the Amazon River. In 1961, Fowler appeared on NBC's Today Show to talk about the harpy eagles. Later, the segment was viewed by Marlin Perkins, who was impressed enough that he invited Fowler to be a co-host of his new show, Wild Kingdom, which brings us to the spring of 1964 and plans for Wild Kingdom to produce an episode right here at Philmont Scout Ranch. Recently, in a storage box in the archives, we discovered a red 3-prong paper folder that said The Philmont Trail TV on the cover. Upon opening it up, we discovered what is essentially a scrapbook recording the participation of Air Explorer Squadron 99 from Los Alamos, New Mexico in the Wild Kingdom episode entitled The Philmont Trail. The Philmont Trail was episode number 4 of season 3. Thumbing through the scrapbook, I found the name of Jim Van Heck, one of the youth participants in the squadron. After doing a little internet sleuthing, I found a Facebook group for the class of 1965, Los Alamos, New Mexico. In that group, I found a person who had Jim Van Heck as a friend. Imagining there couldn't be too many folks in Los Alamos with the name Jim Van Heck, I clicked on the profile and boom, there was the Jim Van Heck from the scrapbook. I reached out to Jim via Messenger to see if he was willing to speak with me about his experiences. About 8:15 Wednesday night, Jim replied and we set up an appointment for Thursday morning to talk. It turns out Jim is the scout who assembled the scrapbook. I asked Jim how his Air Explorer Squadron got involved in this endeavor.
Well, I was a college student at that time, but I was still active with Squadron 99, which was an Air Explorer group in Los Alamos. NBC television apparently called our council office to see if they had a scout unit that was pretty sharp and would like to go up to Philmont for a week and film the Wild Kingdom episode. Our district executive, Maurice Teague, happened to be in the office at the time, and the council exec asked him if he knew if there were any scout units in the Santa Fe or Los Alamos districts that he thought would fit that bill. And he immediately knew of Air Explorer Squadron 99, which was a really sharp outfit. And they asked our advisor, Wes Nichols, if he would ask the guys if we'd want to do it. And of course we did. And so we did it.
According to letters in the folder, it appears that Ray Bryan, then Philmont general manager, contacted Lauren Loomis, scout executive of the Kit Carson Council, looking for a local Explorer unit that would be available during June and July for the production. Loomis contacted Los Alamos Air Explorer Squadron 99 advisor Wes Nichols about the opportunity and directed Nichols to communicate directly with Patrick Collins, an associate producer with Don Meyer Productions. There's another letter in the folder from Ray Bryan to Lauren Loomis, the council executive, thanking him for coordinating the squadron's participation in this production. In a letter dated May 13, 1964, Collins writes to Nichols about the production schedule. Our plans now call for us to bring Marlin Perkins and Jim Fowler, hosts of the series, to Philmont sometime during the week of June 22nd. Because of location trip in Alaska from June 1 to approximately June 15, we are not able to pinpoint exactly the arrival time of our performers at Philmont. When we do have a definite schedule and a firm outline of the activities involving your squadron, we will inform you immediately. Based on production notes written by Neil White, the other adult advisor with Squadron 99, production ran from June 25th to July 1st. In White's notes, he writes, "The following are some notes that may be used to write some sort of story." Well, it may be 61 years later, but we're going to use his notes to tell some sort of a story today. In his production notes, he outlines the story the show will tell, indicating it is not in sequence. However, it is fairly close, and a letter from associate producer Patrick Collins to Neil White on August 7, 1964 reads, "For whatever it is worth, the general storyline of this show will be something like this. Marlin and Jim meet Ray Bryan and Troop 99. Marlin goes off to see buffalo and count antelope in an aerial survey with the game department. Jim joins up with Troop 99 and begins the pack trip up the Philmont Trail. Marlin spots stranded antelope fawns from air. Jim and Boy Scouts rescue antelopes, feed antelopes at base camp, continue on the trip up the Philmont Trail, see puma chase coyote, badger, and coyote fight, puma and beaver fight in stream. Game department blows up beaver dam to release water to dried up beaver pond for the downstream. Puma chases deer, red-tailed hawk captures kangaroo rat. Boy Scouts see elk, capture bear cub in corral. This is the general outline of the show, Neil, with the underlying theme being that as the scouts go up the trail, they notice the change in elevation and the animals that live in the various elevations, ranging from the plains to the high mountain slopes." Jim Van Heck said,
Well, it was a wonderful experience. I mean, we all knew about Wild Kingdom because that was a very, very popular program at the time. Going to Philmont was, for a scout, just just another wonderful experience. So putting the two of those together, it was a fantastic week. We spent a week doing the filming, most of it up and around the Poneal area or on the road going up to Poneal. Some of it around Cathedral Rock, the lake up there.
Neil White's production notes indicate, Our day usually started at 5:30 a.m. and ended at 7 p.m. Long hours, but we enjoyed every minute of it. After the horrible sound of the alarm at 5:30, the boys were up, spotless in clean uniforms and inspected by advisors, ready for breakfast at 6:30 with the cooks. Packed gear in Jeep and car and drove 20 miles to be on location before 7:30. Our lunch usually was a sack lunch, grabbing a bite between clouds and sunshine. We completely interrupted the dining hall schedule, but thanks to Tom Schneider, we received all of our meals. Usually, after dinner, Pat Collins had a conference with the squadron advisors on the next day's location and shooting. The boys were free in the evening to attend lectures, dances, and other social activities going on at the ranch. Only stipulation made by the advisors was that they be in camp by 11:15 p.m. I asked Van Heck what it was like to work with Marlin Perkins and Jim Fowler. He said,
Very easy. Very easy. More contact, I think, with Jim than Marlin. But I mean, there was no pressure, no. It was just they're regular guys, being somewhat mischievous teenage boys. We went after Jim Fowler. He was a young big guy, and every time we stopped to rest, one of us would slip a rock in his pack. And it was about 3 days before he noticed the additional weight, and he was getting concerned that the altitude was getting to him. But when he checked out his pack, he found all the rocks that we'd stuck in there. He took it very good-naturedly, however. It was cool because when we first got there, we went up there with our backpacks, and we were lugging them around for the first day, and they said, you really don't need anything in those packs. It's just take all the stuff out, put your air mattress in there, and blow it up a little bit so it fills the space and looks full, but you're not carrying all the weight. So,
because this is television and the reality of TV is usually an illusion at best, there is a letter dated August 7th, 1964 from Patrick Collins to Neil White regarding an interview on KOB TV White was going to participate in. I have little to add to what you probably already know about the show. As I indicated in our conversations at Philmont, I would appreciate it if you did not mention that the animals seen in the episode were handleable. It tends to spoil the illusion. Included in the scrapbook are almost 40 photographs that Jim Van Heck believes were taken by Patrick Collins during their time at Philmont. There's a note in one of the letters dated November 3rd, 1964, supporting Van Heck's memory that reads, I thought the boys at the Explorer Squadron 99 would enjoy having these additional pictures that I had in my file from the Philmont Trail episode. I feel we were able to get good mileage from these photos from Philmont, and I hope you have been seeing some of the results of this publicity. During the production, Van Heck served as the senior crew leader, so I asked him how that came about. He said,
well, I guess I was the oldest, and I had been the senior crew leader when I was active, on a weekly basis in Los Alamos. They kind of pulled this group together, and I don't remember how that happened, but Wes said, I'd dub you senior crew leader for this program.
Thinking back to Van Heck's answer, making him the crew leader during the production made perfect sense. At the time, Van Heck was a college student attending the College of St. Joseph on the Rio Grande, which became the University of Albuquerque. This would have made him over 18 and legally an adult, so getting his permission for releases and such would have been much simpler than maybe some of the other guys who were under 18 and would require parental permission. This led to Van Heck appearing in several promotional images, as well as being featured more prominently than maybe some of the other scouts in his squadron. The most prominent of these is a poster featuring Van Heck, Marlin Perkins, and a porcupine. Included in the scrapbook was a photocopy of a check from Don Meyer Productions to Jim Van Heck. Van Heck explained,
each of those of us that participated in the filming of that were paid $1 by Don Meyer Productions. I guess that was a legal thing they wanted to do. We, in fact, actually signed those checks over to the local council office anyway. So,
another funny time occurred on the first day when Ray Bryan told the scouts they would have to undergo daily inspections. Van Heck said,
well, it was interesting. I told you at the beginning they were looking for a sharp outfit, scout unit to go up there. When we went up there, they were all kind of serious and stiff-necked and sourpussy about it. They said, okay, we want you guys to line up here, and we're going to inspect you every morning to make sure that you're wearing the uniform correctly and that you're representing the Philmont and the national office and the program well. They said, let's start off now. So I called the group to attention and lined them up in front of what was then the trading post. And they walked up and down the line, and we were absolutely perfect. The uniforms were sharp, the lines were straight. They go west, we're not going to have to do this anymore. You guys are just fine.
Participating in the production of the Philmont Trail was not Van Heck's first trip to Philmont.
My first scout camp was at Philmont at Poniel, when Poniel was being run like a normal regular scout camp. I think I was a second class scout working on first class, or tenderfoot working on second class, but we camped there and we did the classes for the different advancement requirements and ate in the dining hall and, the whole scout camp thing. That would have been about 1952. That kind of right in the transition between when it was, like I say, a regular scout camp and then went to the high adventure thing.
Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, the Philmont Trail, aired in some parts of the country on Sunday, November 8th. For this area, the episode premiered on the following Sunday, November 15th. In a letter dated July 3rd, 1964, and sent to Ray Bryan by Patrick Collins, it reads, Dear Ray, before I take off to go to St. Louis to shoot the studio portions of the Philmont Trail, I would like to take the opportunity to thank you and your staff for all the help and cooperation that you gave us while we were at Philmont. Without your cooperation and the above and beyond the Call of Duty services rendered by Bill Luttrell, we never would have gotten the excellent footage we obtained. Also, the choice of Explorer Squadron 99 from Los Alamos was an excellent one. Wes Nichols and Neil White have modeled a fine group of boys in that squadron. I'm sure they represent the finest in scouting. Marlin Perkins retired from active zookeeping in 1970 and hosted Wild Kingdom until 1985 when he stepped down for health reasons. He died on June 14, 1986 of lymphoma. Jim Fowler remained with Wild Kingdom and took over the main host duties in 1985 when Perkins retired. Wild Kingdom continued to be produced until 1988 with Fowler hosting. Fowler died of complications of heart disease on May 8, 2019 at the age of 89. Jim Van Heck finished college and took a job at Los Alamos National Laboratory as a computer programmer. To avoid being drafted, Van Heck attended the U.S. Navy's Officer Candidate Program and became a naval officer assigned to the Pentagon. 1 year later, Van Heck volunteered to go to Vietnam, where he served as a coastal watch officer and then as a senior naval advisor to the Vietnamese Navy. After his time in the Navy, Van Heck returned to the Los Alamos Laboratory, where he stayed until his retirement 35 years later. Immediately following his retirement, Van Heck moved to Phoenix to care for an ailing brother, and after his passing, returned to New Mexico, where he served for several years on the seasonal staff here at Philmont. Currently, he lives in Albuquerque. You can watch the entire episode, The Philmont Trail, on YouTube. That's all the time we have for this week. Join us next time as we continue to learn more about the history of Scouting America through the collection of the National Scouting Museum and Artifact of the Week.